Hello, this is U.S. Congressman G. Butterfield representing North Carolina's 1st Congressional District. The district consists of 15 counties, starting in Vance and Warren counties, extending over to Gates and Washington County. Martin County is smack dab in the middle of the 1st Congressional District. I'm so proud to represent the good people of Martin County and delighted to speak with you today. Today, I'm glad to showcase some of the significant progress in North Carolina's 1st Congressional District, as I will be sharing a few updates and information concerning economic development right in the middle of COVID-19. Today, I'm happy to be joined by my friend and a hard-working American, Jason Semple, who is President and CEO of the Martin County Economic Development Corporation. And so I say thank you, Jason, for joining us today.
Thank you, Congressman. Glad to be here.
Well, let's get some conversation going, Jason. What do you say about that?
That sounds good.
All right. As I said in my introduction, I am delighted to represent Martin County. You have a lot of challenges in Martin County. I've worked with you down through the years, and I know many, may not know all of them, but I know many of the challenges that businesses and families face in Martin County. And now we're in the middle of this pandemic. And so you have recently created a space for updates and information regarding the Martin County pandemic response. My staff has told me about it, and I quickly looked at it just a little bit on yesterday. Can you tell me just a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So back in March, the Small Business Center Director, Charles Banks, the Chamber Director, Chase Connor, and the Tourism Director, Barney Conway, and I started meeting to figure out ways that we could support our local small businesses in particular. There was so much information coming out. There were so many programs, so much assistance. The landscape was changing so quickly that it was really too much for one person to keep up with. And so we started meeting on a weekly basis, and we quickly realized we needed to grow the group, so to speak, that it was more than just us that needed to support the businesses in our community. So we expanded the scope to include our local mayors, our local town administrators, our regional support folks, of course, your staff and the staff from our senators as well, the Small Business and Technology Development Center, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, the State Department of Commerce, anybody that was out there that could be a resource or a conduit of information, of things that could be available for our local businesses to help them. So that's really how it came about. We weren't sure where it was going to go, but the message that I had to all the folks that I invited to the table was, look, if we aren't talking, if we aren't sharing resources, if we aren't communicating what our organizations are doing, or the things that you're learning about, or the things that are issues in the individual towns, that would be detriment to our community if we were not doing that. So
sure. Well, it sounds like Charles, Chase, Barney, and yourself are really onto something, and it sounds like an exciting idea. It's going to be very useful. It's going to be an informative tool for Martin County. And I want to spread the word, not just throughout the 1st District, but all across the state. How could other counties and cities and even other states benefit from a similar model? How can they make it happen?
Well, I think it's just goes back to the old-fashioned grassroots kind of efforts, using your personal networks and going out from there. I mean, who are the folks that you know, and who are the folks that they know? And let's get them all to the table so that we can be sharing our information and our knowledge. So yeah, no big secret there, just picking up the phone and reaching out to folks and trying to connect with them and get them involved.
Sure. Now, I get periodic reports from Martin County, and it seems that you guys are no different from other counties across North Carolina. Your businesses in the county are really suffering, at least most of them are really suffering from COVID-19. And let's talk about how these businesses, particularly small businesses, even sole proprietors, how are they adapting to COVID-19, adapting to the changes and the requirements that the pandemic has placed upon them? I can tell you that in Congress, we have been doing our level best, and I want our people to understand that. We've been trying to pass legislation that can help the American people. We've passed some legislation, other legislation has been blocked, but hopefully this help will pass the Senate very soon. We passed it in the House, but it's pending in the Senate, and now we know that several of the senators have been diagnosed with COVID, and so the wheels are not just slowing down in the Senate, they have stopped for a couple of weeks. But in the interim, what can you tell us about what you're seeing from businesses and how they are adapting to this dreaded crisis?
Well, it's depending on, the sector, it's kind of a mixed response, if you will. But I will say that our small businesses, I feel like, did a really good job of trying to take advantage of the programs that were out there, whether that be the federal programs like the PPP program or the economic disaster loan through the SBA and the other resources. There have been some state resources as well, funded by Golden Leaf and Department of Commerce and of course our General Assembly, that have been created to help our small businesses, and through our Small Business Center and through the SBTDC as well. We've had more than 100 businesses assisted in some way with those programs and with business counseling. I would say that, one of the things that the pandemic has highlighted, especially to our small businesses, is the need for e-commerce. In our rural communities, in the past, it's still very much a human connection, and that's still very important to us. But this has really brought home the need for an online presence and an online market, because, particularly our retail businesses, if they don't have that, it's going to be a real struggle for them to survive.
Jason, I'm glad you brought up e-commerce, because that's a subject that I care deeply about, because businesses and our business people are very smart people. They are entrepreneurs. When they're faced with a challenge, most of them find a way to make it work. I call it being innovative. They go into e-commerce. They start new businesses, or they watch the bottom line. They cut the overhead in a very responsible way. They make it work, many of them. But the backbone of e-commerce, as we all know, is broadband. And that's something that I've been working on now for years, and we're getting closer and closer and closer, so that every community in America has access to high-speed broadband. And so that's the next thing that we want to tackle in the next Congress. My party, the Democratic Party, has been working with President Trump and others in a bipartisan way to try to come to some consensus on an infrastructure package. It fell apart a few days ago, but I still have hope that we will be able to pass infrastructure legislation, maybe not in this Congress, but in the next Congress, so that Martin County, every square foot of Martin County will have high-speed broadband, and our businesses can benefit from e-commerce. The HEROES Act, which is a bill that we passed several months ago, contains some very important provisions for small businesses. You mentioned the PPP program, Paycheck Protection Program, wonderful program. It ran out of money pretty quickly. $600 billion it was. It ran out pretty quickly, and we are trying to replenish that fund. We passed a bill in the House that would replenish it, but it has not been taken up in the Senate. We want to reauthorize economic disaster assistance loans, but all of that came to a screeching halt the other day when the president called off negotiations on reauthorization of these protections. Hopefully the president will reconsider his decision and get back to the negotiating table to try to get the new bill passed. We call it the HEROES Act. Hopefully we can get that done. But if not, we will address this in the next Congress, and the American people will be made whole again, at least economically. Well, let me try to close it out, Jason. I could just sit here and talk all day because this is my life. I do this every day, all day. And so I'll begin to wind it down. But what have you learned? What have you learned from these calls and from the various stakeholders? What do you believe are some of the next steps for Martin County? I know you depend on Raleigh, and Washington to give you the resources and the support that you need. And I get that. But what do you believe are the next steps for Martin County?
Well, I think that you hit upon one of the most important issues for us. Again, piggybacking onto the e-commerce, and you mentioned broadband, it is the great equalizer. It is the access to all of the global markets, every market that's beyond, outside your walls or outside your doors. That is the way to access it. And I'm so glad that, that you are working on that. It is very important to us in the rural areas. One of the challenges that we have in North Carolina is that our state laws kind of require us to work with the private internet sector providers, which is a good thing. But sometimes I think it may hinder our progress. And so as we have those discussions, moving forward, I'm glad you're working on it. The internet has gone from this neat, cool thing to really something we absolutely depend on. It's gone from a service to a utility. And so that's just the world that we live in.
You're absolutely right. And I say that from time to time. This is no longer luxury, and the internet is an absolute necessity. And now for our students who are displaced because of the pandemic, in many communities across America, students are not able to do their homework, not able to have instruction over the internet because of the lack of high-speed broadband. And so we have a significant amount of money in the HEROES Act that we passed in the House, hasn't been passed in the Senate, but a lot of money in there to assist students with homework and instruction. And so hopefully we can get it passed during what we call the lame duck session, which is after the election. We're going to push very hard to get the HEROES Act passed in the lame duck. If not, we'll come back in January and try it again. And so thank you, Jason Semple, for your work. Thank you for your dedication to Martin County. I hope and pray that others can learn from this wonderful, wonderful communication strategy, as well as to continue to navigate the challenges that we all face today. And so thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you for your work as well.